Welcome to UNCAGED, the show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Michael Freilich. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hello, nice to be here. Doing great.
It's great to have you on the show, not only because you're a Chicagoan, but because you're working in a really interesting space. Michael is the Chief Technology Officer of Renaissance Alliance. Renaissance Alliance is a company that's working in the insurance services space, and they support independent agencies to help them navigate and offer them solutions to bring better insurance solutions to market. And so we'll talk to him more about exactly what Renaissance is working on. Before we get there, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career today.
Sure. So I began my career as a management consultant, and I was a management consultant for 15 years before joining Renaissance as CTO. I started my career actually building sales systems for independent agencies, working at the large carriers. A few years in, I shifted to a more strategic role, really building capability blueprints for big carriers. This was the time when omni-channel distribution was a big need and a big shift in the way insurance companies were doing business. And so almost all of my work as a consultant was focused on this area between the carrier and the agency and how to make that relationship more beneficial to both parties. In the later part of my time at Accenture, I met Kevin Callahan, who is now the CEO of Renaissance. And Kevin and I and several of our other colleagues worked on this idea about how to essentially enhance the value that the independent agency can play in the market. And we built, tried to do a joint venture, tried in actually many ways over the years before we came to Renaissance to figure out a way to do that, to help independent agencies grow, to help them solve some of the issues that they have around scale and scope. And that eventually turned into Renaissance. Renaissance was started about 20 years ago by Bruce Cochran and his wife, Janet. It was purchased about 3 years ago by a private equity firm, and we're now, growing the company.
That's great. So tell me a little bit more about Renaissance and the specific solutions that you guys are working on. I know you have some pretty interesting stuff in the mobile space, but before we get there, tell me just more broadly.
Yeah. So the idea behind Renaissance, one, starts in a belief in the independent agency channel, and that the independent agent is not just a core part of the insurance value chain, but the most important and the most valuable part of the value chain. And that is because they have the relationships with the customer, and that relationship is something that customers still want. The vast majority of insurance premium in the $500 billion market that I think it is goes through an agent or broker of some sort. What Renaissance is doing is essentially supporting independent agencies. While they are the most important, there's a real acknowledgement that the world around insurance and within insurance is changing. And that agencies need the ability to work with the kinds of capabilities that bigger companies have at their disposal. Not just kind of the mobile kind of thing that you referenced, but also ways to work with the data that you have, workflow, solutions, technology solutions that can help them grow. Right. And that's really the premise behind all of the services that we're providing is around growth and how to help agencies grow. A few of those services. So in addition to, there's a bunch of tech. So the mobile app, there's a series of dashboards and reports that we provide, a submission platform, a customer outreach platform. There's also business services. So marketing support, back office support, accounting help, tech support, and these kinds of things that all of our members get access to when they join Renaissance.
That's great. So it works really as a way for the little guys, the Davids, to fight against the Goliaths in a way, and maybe really kind of succeed with the slingshot via some of these new tools that you're bringing to the market. So tell me about this mobile thing that you were touching on before we started the interview.
Yeah, so the mobile app that we built is called Arno, and the the origin of story of Arno is a little bit tricky, right? No one was asking us to build a mobile app. None of our agency members were saying what I could really use as a mobile app. Um, but of course, the world is increasingly, if not fully, a mobile first world. And as we started exploring this idea, it became clear that there's a real opportunity here that doesn't exist in the market that could be, at least initially today, for the owners of these businesses, so the agency principal, to actually give greater visibility into their business and what they're doing. And that's what Arno does. Every day, Arno surfaces the things going on in your business that you as an agency owner would want to know about. These would be things like your most important customers that may be coming up for renewal that need a touch point, or opportunities to cross-sell when the timing might be right, and information about that customer to help. It also does things like allow you to reach out to your team very easily, or reach out to your customers, all integrated into the app. And it has a goal setting feature, so you can set goals for your business and then track those things every day as the business flows.
And does it plug in, Michael, with basically other CRM systems, or does it work alongside maybe a proprietary system that you guys have developed?
Yeah, it works alongside a proprietary system. So one of the sort of the core of Renaissance technology is a data pipeline that we've built that aggregates data from over 100 sources every night, cleans it all, normalizes everything, enhances that data with additional analytics, and then the sort of portfolio of technology offerings that we have sits on top of that data model.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, I mean, I definitely can see how these independent players having access to this wealth of technical support and services support, how that can actually be very, very valuable to them as they try to bring competitive solutions to the marketplace. But tell me a little bit more about what's happening in the broader insurance marketplace for these guys. I mean, it seems like it's quite a competitive landscape. It also seems like it's quite a dynamic landscape in terms of all the changes we see in society, whether it be a world with driverless cars, and how that will be insured or not insured. I have no idea. Global warming. I mean, I'm glad I'm not calling you to speaking to you today from New York City after what I saw that Ida did to the city the other night.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting moment, and I'd just be curious what's happening in the broader insurance business landscape.
Ben, you might be the only person to have ever described the insurance industry as dynamic, but it is traditionally, let's all acknowledge, a slow-moving place.
Yeah.
But you're actually not wrong. Certainly within the last 5-7 years ish, the explosion of what is called the Insuretech ecosystem has changed the landscape of the industry to some degree. I view all of that as a real blessing for the industry. You have tons of capital coming into the industry. You have tons of talent, Silicon Valley veterans that now set their sights on the insurance industry, and it has, if it's not transforming the industry fully, which it has an impact, but we could argue about the degree to which that impact has been felt, it certainly has pushed the boundaries of of what is going on. When a claim is paid within seconds, which perhaps is what driverless cars may one day allow, right? If all the data is being gathered, turnaround time could be very fast. Um, you know, you can bet that every insurance company is thinking about how can I pay claims faster and do this more efficiently, right? And so uh, I think it's also a time when, like it or not, insurance products are complicated, and they can be confusing to buy. They can be hard to understand, and the technology around them only in the last several years got to a point where it it can really begin to tackle that complexity, the complexity of workflow, the dynamics of the industry, uh, and it we I think we're now at a place where we are seeing those things kind of change, data flowing more easily across ecosystems and all of that.
So, I mean, for you guys at Renaissance, I'm imagining that the last 18 months have been very interesting for you. And I'm imagining as a group that supports independent agencies, the challenges that they've had working remotely, maybe restructuring into hybrid models has influenced you guys. And I'd just be curious to hear how the last 18 months have impacted you and maybe offered interesting challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, no, happy to talk about that. I think, um, for our members, there was, well, for everybody, there was this shift, right, to a remote work and a more hybrid model. And for some small businesses, especially in the insurance space, that was quite disruptive. I answered the question more than once: what kind of laptops should I be buying, right? And so there was this transition. I think that you know, so there was an operational impact. Probably the most notable impact as it relates to the insurance business generally was that no one did anything. And so cars weren't being driven. And so, claims were down rather significantly. Um, but I think uh, there was some growth issues, right? Some contraction and things like that that happened, of course, particularly in the commercial markets. But um, uh, but in general, insurance agencies are pretty well insulated from that kind of the kind of disruption that we experienced. Um, from a Renaissance standpoint, the transition to remote went very, very easily. Um, as a consultant, I've always spent a part of my time remote, and so this sort of accelerated that, or brought it to Renaissance. 2020, we had our biggest year of sales on record, and so the shift to video, uh, the kinds of productivity gains that you can get, just the overall dynamic in the kind of interactions, the frequency of interactions, the ease that can happen, I think helped in a lot of ways. I also think that uh, there were a lot of agencies looking at their business and saying, it would be helpful to have these additional kind of capabilities. And so that made Renaissance, the value proposition more attractive in some sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's interesting because I found that, I mean, we had a big year in 2020 and in 2021. And I do feel that a lot of it has been that the naysayers that stopped digital change all got outvoted
Yes.
at every company around the world. And suddenly there was a massive push forward in terms of innovation and technology. But I mean, I'm imagining also as an independent agent, probably feeling this pressures to innovate and make sure that you're ready for that next wave was key as well. And so, I mean, I think that leads nicely into the next question, which is as these agencies ask you and look to Renaissance for counsel on where they should be going and what they need next. What does the future look like for you guys, and what are you prioritizing?
So I think that in some sense, the focus hasn't really changed in that we're, uh, giving agencies access to capabilities that they can't get otherwise. Um, and I think that, uh, you know, we remain this have we continue to have this belief that the agency owns the customer, and as a result, they're where the value sits. And so the question is, what other things can Renaissance do to help independent agents become the best advisor that they can be? Um, my boss, the CEO of Renaissance, sometimes says that insurance is a sad business, that you pay a bunch of money and get nothing in return until something horrible happens to you. And the fact is, these agencies are sort of working with people, one, to protect them from these horrible things that can happen in life, but also being someone's advocate during that time. And I think that sometimes that is overlooked. And so where I my orientation is, so how can I use the data in the world and the power of technology to help agents become better advisors? And that's what we're trying to do.
That's great. Well, listen, Michael, it's been great to learn more about Renaissance and what the team is up to. I can only imagine that there'll be more and more need for what you guys are delivering and supporting these independent agents and how they're going to market. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and connect and learn more about what you guys are working on, where would they find you?
You can go to our website at renaissanceins.com, or just Google Renaissance Alliance. And hopefully, Google will correct your spelling of Renaissance. And you can reach out to me there on LinkedIn. Happy to connect and talk.
That's great. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today. We've been speaking with Michael Freilich. Michael is the Chief Technology Officer of Renaissance Alliance. Renaissance Alliance is an insurance services company that helps independent agencies navigate an increasingly fluid marketplace and realize their full potential. Thanks so much for telling us more about this, and I look forward to talking to you again.
It's a pleasure. So happy to be here, and thanks very much.
All right, cheers.